So I had a phone call with one of my followers and he asked me this question. He had some experience in real estate, but this was definitely a step up from anything he had done before. So if you're starting to make some serious money or you're wondering how you should invest your money, this video is for you. And by the end of this video, you'll know how to maximize your wealth with the dollars that you have. And stick around to the end because I'm gonna share a concept that I call liquid leverage that allowed me to scale to over 500 rental units, starting with only $1,000. I did all that with $1,000. So if you have some money to start out with, you can literally be set for life by just making a few strategic moves. So I'm talking to this guy, he's about to come into $750,000 and he asked me what he should do. So the first thing I told him is, I'm not gonna give you some blanket generic advice because everyone's situation is unique. So what are your goals? What outcomes do you want? Do you want cash flow or do you want to build your net worth on paper? Which one of those do you want? Because there are two different approaches that you would take with the money that you have. And the answer to that question is going to determine your course of action. Because see, what people don't realize is that true passive income really only comes as a private lender in real estate. I told him if it was all about cash flow and all about passive income, then that's what I would do with the money. However, if you're wanting to build your wealth at the same time, you might use that as fuel to buy some more properties. And so I told him this, and then the crazy thing was he already had a deal that he was looking at buying. It was an apartment complex, but he said, after all is said and done, I'm only gonna be making about $3,000 a month off of it in cash flow. And I said, if you want to build your wealth, go buy an apartment complex. Now make sure it's a good deal. You know, I'm not just endorsing you go buy whatever, but go buy good deals. Go buy real estate if you want to build your wealth over time. But if you're looking at the cash flow today, then you're probably going to be a lot better off doing private money loans and lending to other investors. And so it was funny that he had a deal right on his plate that he was analyzing that showed him exactly what I was telling him. And all that doesn't even take into consideration how much time would have to be invested in owning an apartment or owning a bunch of single family homes versus just being a private lender. And so he understood what the choice was. And the choice was, I can have very predictable returns and cash flow by being a private lender, or I can build my own net worth over time, buy a lot more elbow grease and sweat equity and buying and owning rental properties long term. That's definitely going to build your net worth the most. But once you have a chunk of cash and you want to start getting cash flow and feeling wealthy, it's hard to beat being a private lender, because all of a sudden when you become a private lender, you start trading your dollars for more dollars. And when you're actively building your wealth, even though you're using a lot of leverage, that's exactly why I asked you what your goal is, because you're still trading a lot of your time and your skills and your resources for more dollars later on down the line. And true investors have their money making money for them. So he figured out that what he really wanted was, he did want some predictable cash flow, but he also wanted to grow his wealth over time, and he was willing to put in effort to do that. So he wanted a little bit of both. Next thing we talked about from there was, he said, well, since I do want to buy some properties, I could buy this many brand new construction houses with the money that I have, or I could buy this apartment deal, or I could do some other type of deal with the money I had. And I told him, now that you've established you want to buy properties, we need to address your approach, because you are not utilizing what I call liquid leverage. See, liquid leverage is a phrase that I came up with, and it is the single thing that allowed me to scale to over 500 rental units, starting out with just $1,000. See, it's not like at any point along that journey, I just had this massive windfall of millions of dollars that I could go use to buy this massive rental portfolio. No, I treated every single deal the exact same. It had to perform, it had to pay for itself. What liquid leverage is saying, hey, I've got the ability to put a down payment down, right? I've got that money. I'm liquid. I've got liquid cash. But instead of me using my money to buy the property, instead, I'm going to discipline myself to only buy good deals that have built-in equity so I can borrow the money from someone else to buy the property. And that's where leverage comes in. Liquid leverage. See, a lot of people would say, oh, it's so irresponsible to go leverage money and buy properties. And I would say, well, if you're not in a good position, I agree. But that's where liquid leverage is different, because you are in a good position, you have enough money to put a down payment on that property. You're just actively choosing, instead of being lazy and buying a bad deal and throwing money at it so it cash flows, instead, you're being disciplined and only buying good deals that cash flow with you putting none of your own money in. So you get the deal, you get the equity, and you get to keep your cash. That's what liquid leverage is. And so that was the second point we talked about. Is I said, look, no matter how much money you're starting out with, it's 750,000, but let's call it 7 million. You're going to run out of money at some point if your business model is just to throw big down payments into properties. And again, it goes back to your goals, but if you want to scale and continue to build a large business, you can't be doing that. It's a simple math equation. However much money you have, take that number and divide it by how much you're putting in the average down payment, and that will literally tell you how many deals you can do before you run out of money. And by definition, that's not a scalable business model because you would have to generate new money from somewhere else. Instead, with liquid leverage, if you buy good deals that you can get 100% financed because you have built-in equity based on your purchase price compared to the value of the property, and you leave zero of your own money in each deal, how many of those deals can you do? Well, if I'm leaving zero of my own money in the deal, I'm dividing by zero. That does not exist. That's infinite. That's an infinitely scalable business model. That's what liquid leverage does for you, okay? So I'm not saying go borrow a ton of money and buy bad properties and be over leveraged and make bad decisions. But if you have the money to start with, then you can stretch it way, 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 way further by approaching it this way versus just looking at how many houses can I buy before my money runs out. That's the lazy way to invest. So that was the second point. So he knew what his goals were a little bit more clearly, and now he realized that he didn't need to just dump all that money into a property and be done. If he wanted to truly build his wealth, he would have to have a little bit of a better business model. So this guy was pretty sharp because he was picking up the things that I was telling him quickly. He said, okay, I get it. So I want some passive income and I want some good cash flow, but at the same time, I want to build my wealth. So what will you do? It's a question everyone loves to ask. They love to give you their exact scenario, dump it on you and say, tell me exactly what to do so I don't have to think for myself. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it's tempting. I love it too. I wish someone had all the answers for me. And luckily for him, I had a pretty good answer for him. So I told him, if I was in your position and I had this exact amount of money coming in, $750,000, here is exactly what I would do if I had your goals. First thing I would do, take $100,000 out of that, set it in an account, don't think about it. Now, that account you set it in could be a cash value life insurance policy, which I told him I am heavily invested in infinite banking, and this guy was too. So that's probably where he would put that first $100,000. And the reason you want to set $100,000 aside, other than what I've mentioned, is because it would be a tragedy if you get all this money in and you want to build your future and you're investing it and you feel broke. There's a lot to be said about not feeling broke and knowing you have that safety net, knowing you have that money set aside where sure, you might not be maximizing the returns on it, but it's going to keep you in business and help you weather the storms that are inevitably going to come. It's hard to put a price tag on that peace of mind. Trust me, take it from me, please. Second, you want to get passive income, you want to get cash flow. I would take $400,000 out of that pot of money and I would become a private lender and lend money to other real estate investors. Why? Because you're going to get good, predictable cash flow with that money. It's not going to go up and down. You're not going to have to, fix a water heater or totally renovate the house for a second time like you will on a rental. You just lend the money, you get a set rate of return, and that comes in as cash flow. And then I would take the rest of the money, $250,000, and I would set it aside to be able to do more deals. Now, I'm very specific about the way that I'm saying set the money aside to do more deals. I didn't say put that money into a property because that negates everything I just talked about with liquid leverage, right? So set that money aside if you need it short term for a project. So what could that look like? Well, let's say you buy a small apartment building and the seller finances it and you need to come out of pocket to do a little bit of repairs. And once you do those repairs, you can do a cash out refinance and pull your money back out. That's short term. That might take you 6 months, 9 months to do. That's a good use of the money because it's not just going into a property and being left there forever, right? You're using it for a specific purpose. You put it into the property, you quickly refinance and get that money back out. You've got your $250,000 there to work with and go on to the next deal. And I know it's gonna be tempting to use it to just say, oh, I'll just go throw a couple down payments. But once that money is gone, it's gone. And if you truly wanna build your wealth, that is not the best way to go about it. So set that $250,000 aside and just have it there to help you on deals, but hopefully you won't have to touch it because you'll be able to fully fund each of the good discounted deals with equity that you're buying. So to wrap it up, what I would do, I'd take the first 100,000, set it aside, don't touch it. It has no purpose other than to just be some extra money just in case. Take $400,000, become a private lender and build up your cash flow and your passive income. And then take the last $250,000 and set it aside to help you be able to get into more deals. And I've got some friends of mine that utilize this exact same strategy with their business. See, these people are full-time real estate investors. They're a married couple and they do this exact thing. So they came into this business with a good chunk of money themselves, but they realized that if I'm putting money into every deal, it will only go so far. And so what they do is they have a built-in discipline in their business, just like I have, in that they will not use any of their own money to do deals. Now, of course, if they have to, if the numbers didn't work out, they'll use it if they need to, but they're disciplined when they buy deals that the deal has to work on its own. And it is extremely wise to do things that way, because at the end of the day, if no one's willing to fund your deal, you might not have a great deal. But if you're using all of your own money into the deals, well, no one's gonna tell you it's a bad deal. So using that strategy, even for myself, when I was first starting out, it helped me avoid a couple of bad deals that if I didn't have lenders telling me that this is a bad deal, I might have done them. And just like those friends of mine, that's the exact same way I approach my business. I know that if I am disciplined to only buy properties that I can fully finance because they have built-in equity day one, then I know that one, I'm gonna be in solid deals. Two, I'm gonna keep my capital on hand for whenever I need it. And three, I'm gonna have a business model that scales exponentially as far as I wanna take it. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to scale your business model as far as you possibly wanted to take it? And the only thing that determined how far it would go is how far do you wanna take it? And how good are you at operations? Because that's a whole nother story. But most people's business models fail because the financial model has its limits and they don't know how to scale past that. Liquid leverage is how you scale past your financial limits. So if you found this video helpful, share it with someone. And my challenge to you is this: find one way in your business or in your investing that you can be intentional about the model you're gonna use, and find one way to get your investing model to scale further than what you did before you watched this video. I'll see you on the next one.